Merry Christmas, or depending on when you're watching this, Merry Christmas. And of course, if you don't celebrate Christmas, I still hope you're having a wonderful day. If you're celebrating anything, I hope you're having a wonderful time celebrating it. If you're not celebrating anything, I hope you're having a wonderful day anyway. I'm celebrating Christmas with my family today, hence the greeting, but a happy holidays or whatever other greeting is appropriate. It's Christmas for me, and I hope you're having a wonderful day no matter where you are and what you're doing. What I want to do today is I want to bring you the Pokémon TCG Awards 2023. And I looked back just before I started making this video. I've been doing this since 2017. Now, I did weirdly miss 2018, I don't know why, but I did this in 2017, 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022. All of those awards are linked in the description. So, hey, you know, maybe you got a bit of time today. Maybe you want to sit and relax and have some chill moments. Maybe you want to have a bit of a Pokemon history lesson. Well, good news, ladies and gentlemen. It's all there and ready to go for you. There we go. That's my present to you. Now, we are looking at the calendar year here. So in terms of sets, we've got the main set Scarlet and Violet. We've got Paldea Evolved. We've got ourselves Obsidian Flames. And we got ourselves Paradox Rift. They are the sets we're talking about. There were also a couple of extra sets released this year. We had Pokemon Card 151, or Scarlet and Violet 151 as it is here. And we did actually have Crown Zenith. Crown Zenith did actually release this calendar year and has kind of annoyingly messed a few things up. And I've had to put in a couple of extra awards just because of Crown Zenith, which is actually honestly kind of annoying. But I do take this job seriously. So let's start off negative and we'll skew positive as we go later on. Let's start off with the worst card released this year, and it is the Pokémon from Paldea Evolved. And the reason here is extremely simple. There is very little good about this. Generally speaking here, I'm looking at stage 2s with no redeeming qualities because they're hard to get into play and they don't give you much back. And there are a lot of bad stage 2s that have got really interesting things about them. Pokémon doesn't. Ooh, 2 energy, 100 to the active, 60 to the bench. We need to do 70 to KO most relevant things, and bench damage is often prevented anyway. No, Pokémon's terrible. The one that makes me sad, the worst EX of the year, it's Golem. I don't want it to be Golem. Golem was my third favourite Pokemon from Gen 1. I spent way too much time looking at all the EXs released this year, which incidentally are all the EXs in existence, trying to find another EX that is worse so I didn't have to put Golem as the worst EX of the year, but it is. 50 damage during your next turn, attacks used by this Pokemon do 120 more. Brilliant. If your opponent makes you switch, it's irrelevant. And then free energy, 180 on a stage 2 when fighting doesn't have good energy acceleration. Nah, Golem's garbage. And I love the card in terms of artwork and I love the Pokemon, but no, Golem is hot garbage. Now, in terms of best artwork, I am giving it to the illustration rare of Cleffa by Hayaganosuke. Now, most years, you are going to see this award go to Okacheke. They are my favourite artist working in the Pokemon TCG. And there are many phenomenal artworks that have been done this year by Okacheke. None of them are as good as Cleffa. Cleffa is the best artwork that's been produced this year. As far as I'm concerned, it is absolutely ridiculous. There is something about this artwork that is just special and wonderful and brilliant, and I love it. And I know art is subjective, so you're not all going to agree with this, and that's absolutely fine, but I love this. Although, while we're talking Obsidian Flames, I do want to give a shout out to the pre-release promo Togekiss, which is an Okacheke artwork and is absolutely amazing, and weirdly hasn't had a Japanese release. Now, the one we can do quite honestly and empirically is the most valuable card, and this is the special illustration rare Charizard EX from Pokemon Card 151. Yes, I'm sure we could look and find some obscure promo which is more expensive. I like to focus on the cards here that you can actually pull from packs, and the most valuable card you can pull from a pack this year was special illustration rare Charizard. It's only like 120 bucks, and that's a good thing, because it means these cards are much more available. Now, in terms of the best stadium, I'm giving it to Town Store. Now, this is a weird one, because, it lets you go and search for a tool, that's fine. The reason why Town Store is the best stadium is because it lets you search for, amongst other things, Forest Seal Stone, which of course is a card that was not released this year. It was released last year in the end of 2022, but it's such an impactful card letting you search for anything that having a stadium that lets you search for it is a pretty big deal. In terms of best tool, it's not terribly exciting, I'm afraid, but I'm giving it to Bravery Charm. Gives extra HP. It's not terribly exciting, and for that I can only apologise, but the reality is, if you look at deck lists and watch tournaments at the moment, and I do all of that a lot, Bravery Charm sees a huge amount of play. It is a very impactful card that is absolutely everywhere in the metagame right now. 50 more HP to a basic Pokemon is a big deal, and this is the best tool released this year. As always, any you disagree with, let me know in the comment section. In terms of best item, I'm giving it to Electric Generator. The item card lets you look at the top 5 cards of your deck, find up to 2 lightning energy and attach them to your Pokemon. It's clearly ridiculous, and it's one of the things that has made lightning decks great. I should note it's only to benched lightning Pokemon. It's awesome. It's risky and it doesn't always work, but it's one of the reasons lightning decks are top tier right now. I could have given it to Countercatcher, and in the long run, Countercatcher may well end up being a much more impactful card, but that's a reprint of a card we had a while ago, and it's only just come out. And I don't know, I wanted to give it to Electric Generator, alright? There we go. In terms of best supporter, this is one of the easiest categories we've got here. It goes to Iono. And there are other good supporters that have been released in the Scarlet and Violet era in this year, but no. Nothing comes close to Iono. Both players shuffle their hand, put them on the bottom of their deck, and then draw cards equal to their remaining prizes. It'll do as draw power in the early game, it'll do as disruption in the late game. If your opponent takes a big lead and you get a decent hand while they don't get a decent hand, it's just really, really good. There is a reason this sees play almost everywhere. Now, best common was extremely easy, because most years we don't have a good common card released. This year we did. It was Jirachi. And there's no real competition here. Most commons are just evolving Pokemon. But here we've got Jirachi. It stops damage counters being placed by your opponent's basic Pokemon. It will stop, for instance, obviously the big one here is Sableye, but it will also stop Medicham dropping damage counters to try and use Yoga Loop as an example. It is a really good tech, which hurts a bunch of different archetypes. And I said this at the time, incidentally, as of there's videos where I'm saying this in the past. As soon as we found out this was a common card, honestly, my first thought was, well, there's best common when I do my awards at the end of the year. Best uncommon is going to be more controversial. I'm giving it to Clorf. I think Clorf is brilliant. I adore Clorf. I had so much fun casting this and following it at Stuttgart Regionals. It's got a really nice attack for 2 energy that does 190 if it is affected by a special condition. We had a bunch of them in Day 2 in Stuttgart. We had some in Day 2 in San Antonio. It was awesome. If you don't want Clorf, then fine, go for Screamtail, which is a staple in Gardevoir right now, which is a top deck in the format. And this is a big part of it, because it does 20 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon for each damage counter on this Pokemon, and then obviously you accelerate energy to it using Gardevoir EX, and then that will put damage on, so it's really easy to get rolling, and it can put damage anywhere. Maybe this should be the answer, but I'm giving it to Clorf. It's my video, it's my award, and I love me some Clorf. Santa Clorf is coming to town. Now, because of Crown Zenith, we have to, unfortunately, annoyingly go for extra categories, and that does include Best Pokemon V. But this one's really easy. It's Rotom V. Please remember, we are only looking at cards released this calendar year. There were not many Pokemon V. It was basically just Crown Zenith. But Rotom sees a bunch of play just because you get to draw 3 cards. And sure, it ends your turn, but for a bunch of decks, that is enough. So there we go. Best V Max I'm giving to Regigigas. We actually saw this somehow having a bit of a run over in San Antonio with Arceus. It was weird to see it, but it was kind of awesome. It's got a V-Star power that if your opponent's got exactly one prize card remaining, you can make them just discard one of their bench Pokemon. But also free energy 230 on a 300 HP Pokemon that's only a stage 1. That's pretty gosh darn good. Also, I might have said VMAX. I clearly mean V-Star. So yeah, cheers to Crown Zenith for making me do them. Now, in terms of best non-EX supporting, as in used for support, not for attacking, I'm giving it to Spiritomb. There are some others we could have gone for. Jirachi would actually work here quite nicely. But the fact of the matter is, Spiritomb has proven itself to be a very, very good tech. It turns off basic Pokemon V's abilities. It's obviously excellent when you put it up against something like Genesect in a Mew deck, for instance. Turns that off nicely. But it also turns off Rotom, which, as mentioned, sees a bunch of play in a bunch of decks. So I do honestly feel pretty good about this one. It's not very exciting. I wish it was a bit more exciting. But honestly, the best non-EX support Pokemon this year probably is just Spiritomb. Sorry about that. And in terms of best non-EX attacker, there are not many good non-EX attackers that have come out this year. So let's give it to Screamtail. Although I want it on the record, this could have gone to Clorf. Because honestly, in terms of non-EX attackers, they all came out at the tail end of the Sword and Shield era. They're not from Scarlet and Violet. There basically aren't any real good ones. I mean, go to limitlesstcg.com, go to tournaments, have a little bit of a search through, winning deck lists, look for non-EX attackers that came out this year. There basically aren't any good ones. Screamtail and Clorf will have to do. Best Pokemon EX supporting, this one's easy, it's Squawkabilly. We've got that turn 1 Squawk and Seize. It only works on turn 1, but you get to discard your hand and draw 6. This has become a staple in so many decks. I don't need to mention the Amelicart Special Illustration Rare or the alternate art, but I'm going to because it's amazing. And yeah, this is one of those that sees a huge amount of play in a huge amount of decks. This one's very, very easy. In terms of best attacking EX, this isn't easy. It's not easy at all, but I'm giving it to Charizard EX. Now, maybe there's a little bit of recency bias going on here with the fact that Charizard literally just won San Antonio Regionals. That is the most recent regional. Charizard took the whole thing home. Maybe there's a bit of recency bias going on here. But it is a phenomenal attacker. Now, it does have a really nice ability that accelerates a bunch of energy when you evolve into it, which is lovely. But also 2 energy, 180 plus 30 more for each prize card your opponent has taken. Yeah. And if your opponent takes a bit of a prize lead, which they often will for a stage 2 deck, well then that just means you hit harder when you get rolling. And you got 330 HP. It's ridiculous. I could have given this to Miraidon, but I don't think as a pure attacker, Miraidon is as good as Charizard. I could have given it to Gardevoir, but really Gardevoir's more for accelerating energy and attacking occasionally. So you add that all up, and I do think Charizard's the answer here. I could also have given it to Roaring Moon, but again, Roaring Moon has not seen the level of success that Charizard has seen, so I don't think giving this to Roaring Moon over Charizard would be a good idea either. I really do think the correct answer here is Charizard, and when I was able to interview the game director of the Pokemon TCG, one of the questions I asked them was, well, you only put one Pokemon really on the front of booster packs in Japan. You only have one booster pack per set, different to over here where we have 4 or 5. How important is it to you that that Pokemon is good and viable in the card game? And their answer basically was just spending a couple minutes telling me how great they think Charizard is. And you know what? They were right. Now, in terms of best deck, there are a couple of different ways to go here. I'm giving it to Mew. Mew won the World Championships. And I'm not giving it to Mew just because it won the World Championships. I'll take an example, Mega Ordino back in 2016. Won the World Championships. Nobody can really argue that over the course of the year, that was the best deck. But Mew has been top cutting and being great since the very beginning of the year, all the way through, and it won the World Championships. It was still top cutting right at the end of this year. It made 5th place in Stuttgart in December of this year. It made 3 top 16 finishes in San Antonio, and it won Worlds. And yes, I know it's been out longer than the other decks. I know we're talking cards that come out this year, but for decks we have to talk about their performance throughout the year. And honestly, I don't think on balance there has been a better deck this year than Mew. Plus, if all else fails, it literally won the World Championships. So maybe we can just fall back on that if we need to. And I will. Shout out to Vance Kelly, of course, who did win Worlds with Mew. In terms of best expansion, I've got 2 answers for you, and it depends where you go. If you're looking for a main expansion that really impacted the metagame, it's Paradox Rift. I've already mentioned a bunch of cards from Paradox Rift. It's amazing. If you want a, hey, this set's really cool, then it's Scarlet and Violet 151. Because it's full of nostalgia and is awesome. Your answer depends on where you want to go there. If you're looking for, this set is really cool, then the best set of the year is probably 151, especially if you have some nostalgia for Gen 1 like I do. If, however, you're looking just for the best main set of the year that's had a big impact on the metagame, etc., then you want Paradox Rift. And to be clear, of the 4 main sets, it is Paradox Rift, and that's pretty clear. So what then is the very best card that has been released this year? This one I agonized over. I'm giving it to Miraidon. I think on balance, this is the best card released this year. Now, there's a few reasons for this. Firstly, it's a great attacker. Secondly, it's got a great ability. Lets you search for 2 lightning Pokemon, but if you make one of them Miraidon, then you get to search for 2 more, etc. But also, it doesn't need anything else. I could have given this to Charizard EX, except that needs an engine to get it rolling. Miraidon is basically its own engine. I could have given it to Gardevoir, but then again, Gardevoir doesn't really exist without the other Gardevoir, you know, the Curlier that came around previously, the one that came around in Silver Tempest. You really kind of need that to get rolling. And that wasn't even released this year. It's not like it's the one that goes or the one in Scarlet and Violet. And I think when you add it all up together, this is the card that does the most with the fewest extra cards added in. Yes, sure, you need Electric Generator. And yes, I know you could say, well, Gardevoir EX gets its own energy, and it does, and that's fair. But in the past couple of tournaments, certainly, Miraidon has proven to be a better deck than Gardevoir. That's not an opinion. Go and look at the top cuts of Stuttgart, where Miraidon got 2nd, and Mew didn't make top 8. Or go and have a look at San Antonio, where Miraidon made 7th, and Mew didn't make top 8. I do think Miraidon is the best card released this year. I really heavily considered Gardevoir. I really heavily considered Charizard here. But I don't think there is any card released this year that on balance, with everything there, and with as little help, is as good as Miraidon. So there we go. Those are the awards, and I'm sure there are a bunch there you disagree with, but you've seen the categories, so now it's over to you guys. Tell me what you would go for, and if you want to do a full list like I've done with every category, it takes a while and it's a pain, but it is kind of fun. If you're searching, use pkmncards.com. That is the best online database that I've found. But I'm a bit croaky, and I need to go spend time with my kids, so Merry Christmas, look after yourselves, have a wonderful time, and let me know what you think in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi. That's where we talk Pokemon and a bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio. Now go and enjoy your day, however you choose to celebrate, or if you even choose to celebrate at all. Have a good one.